Think about the most ambitious person you know at work, the one who said yes to everything, every extra project, every stretch assignment, every promotion that came their way. They have the title. They have the salary that sounds impressive when it comes up at dinner. They are doing everything you are supposed to do. Now, think about whether they actually seem happy. Not LinkedIn happy. Not blessed and grateful in the caption of their work anniversary post happy. Actually happy. Because there is a version of that person, and maybe you know them, or maybe you are them, who gets home at 7:45 p.m., eats whatever is standing over the sink because sitting down feels like too much, checks email one more time before bed, and then lies awake doing math about whether this life they worked so hard to build is actually the life they wanted. This video is about what that something is, and more importantly, it is about the people who saw it coming, said no thank you to the promotion, and ended up in a completely different place 5 years later. A better place. A wealthier place. A place that is hard to explain to your parents but makes total sense once you see the math. I am Hamster. I spend an unreasonable amount of time doing math that HR departments would prefer you never see. If you have ever felt like you are working harder every year and somehow getting further behind, hit subscribe. Because that feeling has a very specific, very fixable explanation. Today, we are going to break all of it down. Before we get into the numbers, let me be clear. This is not me telling you to stop caring or coast through your career. This is a completely honest accounting of what a promotion actually gets you versus what it costs you. Because most people do the salary math and stop there. And the salary math, it turns out, is the least interesting part. Let us start with the most basic question. You get promoted from $70,000 to $95,000. What does that $25,000 raise actually put in your pocket? $25,000 sounds like a lot. It is a number that feels validating. It is a number worth celebrating at dinner. But here is what actually happens to it once the real world shows up uninvited. At $70,000, your federal income tax and FICA combined run about $12,800. Take home is roughly $57,200. At $95,000, that federal burden climbs to around $18,500. Take home is about $76,500. So, of the $25,000 raise, about $5,700 went directly to the federal government before you saw a single cent of it. And that is before your state government remembers you exist. In a state like New York, add another $2,500. In California, add about $2,300. That $25,000 raise is now worth maybe $13,800 in actual take-home pay. So we haven't even gotten to the truly painful part yet. Most people celebrate gross income. I make 6 figures, but your mortgage, groceries, and savings are paid with net income. A 28% effective tax rate means you keep 72 cents of every new dollar. That $25,000 raise is $18,000 after federal taxes alone. Add state and local, and you are down to $14,000. The number on your offer letter is not the number you can invest. Now let us talk about the truly painful part. It has a name, lifestyle inflation, and it is absolutely ruthless. Not because people are irresponsible, but because it is almost biologically automatic. The average person spends somewhere between 60 and 80 cents of every new dollar they earn. We see more income, and our brains interpret it as permission. The slightly nicer apartment, the car that is a little newer, the restaurants that used to be a treat becoming just Tuesday. A Lending Club report found that 38% of Americans earning over $100,000 live paycheck to paycheck. A 2025 study from the Federal Reserve found that nearly 35% of households earning over $150,000 still struggle to cover a $500 emergency expense. Read that sentence again and ask yourself whether income is actually the variable that matters here. You upgraded from 5 gallons to 10 gallons and then immediately bought more stuff to fill it. Let us say lifestyle inflation absorbs 55% of your after-tax raise. Your $13,800 just became $6,210. Now factor in the promotion requiring a return to office. That is $3,000 to $10,000 a year in commuting, lunches, work clothes, and dry cleaning you weren't spending before. Factor in healthcare costs that research shows are 40% higher for high-stress workers. Suddenly, that $25,000 promotion raise is netting you somewhere between $500 and $3,000 per year in genuine investable savings. $3,000. That is what is left after taxes, lifestyle, and the cost of physically showing up to the job. You gave them more of your life. They gave you a title and a coffee budget. And that is before we count the hours. Here is a calculation I genuinely cannot believe more people don't do before accepting a promotion. It is called your effective hourly rate, and it is the most honest number in your financial life. Take a director earning $120,000 a year. Sounds great. Now take the senior individual contributor who said no to that role and stayed at $82,000. Also sounds fine. Now divide by actual hours worked, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. Research from the National Federation of Independent Business shows that 55% of senior managers and executives work 50 or more hours per week. Harvard Business School tracked 27 CEOs across a full year, 60,000 hours of data, and found they averaged 61.2 hours weekly, including nearly 4 hours on weekend days and 2.5 hours while on vacation. That isn't really vacation anymore. That is just working in a nicer shirt. Let us be conservative. The director works 52 hours a week at $120,000 a year. That is $2,308 per week, or $44.38 per hour. The individual contributor at $82,000 working a clean 40 hours earns $1,577 per week, or $39.42 per hour. The gap between them is $4.96 per hour. That is your promotion premium on a per hour basis once the real math runs. Now, here is the part that will make you genuinely angry. Under the Fair Labor Standards Act, once you become a salaried exempt employee, which is every manager and executive earning above $43,888, you are no longer entitled to overtime pay. 0. The director working 52 hours a week is putting in 624 hours of unpaid labor every single year. That is 15.6 full work weeks for free, given back to the company with a smile and a LinkedIn update about loving challenges. The company didn't give you a raise. They bought a very steep discount on a very large amount of your life. The optics are great. The math is grim. Here's the part of this equation that nobody puts in the job description. What could you actually build with those 12 to 15 hours per week you just signed over? Not a unicorn startup, not a cryptocurrency play, something boring and sustainable. Freelancing in your field, a small consulting practice, content creation, e-commerce. The average American side hustler earns between $800 and $1,200 per month. Among those who put real effort in, 35% earn over $1,000 monthly. Let us say you build something modest, $1,500 per month. You put it into the S&P 500 at its historical average of around 9% annually. After 10 years, you have about $55,000. After 20 years, you have about $1.1 million. After 30 years, you have about $2.7 million. That is the opportunity cost of those 12 weekly hours. Over $1 million built in the time the director was sitting in meetings about meetings. The individual contributor who kept her 40-hour week and her side income isn't earning less than the director. She is building more. She just can't see it on a business card. Let me show you what this actually looks like in real people's lives. Blake is 38. He took every promotion. He is a director now, earning $142,000. It sounds like he won. It is 6:52 p.m. on a Tuesday, and Blake is still at the office because there is a reorg happening and his skip level wants a slide deck ready for Thursday, and he has a one-on-one with a direct report who is struggling, and there are 47 unread Slack messages from today alone. He will be home by 8:30. His kids will be asleep. He will eat whatever is in the fridge standing over the sink, check his email one more time, and set an alarm for 6:15 a.m. His $480,000 mortgage requires he stay exactly where he is. His 2 car payments, $1,400 a month combined, require he stay exactly where he is. The private school tuition, because that is just what you do at this income level, requires he stay exactly where he is. His 401k has $91,000 in it, which sounds okay until you realize he is 38 and needs roughly $1.4 million to retire. There is never much left to invest after the mortgage, the cars, the school, and the life that quietly assembled itself around his salary. He has told himself that the equity in his house is his retirement plan, which is financially speaking the equivalent of saying, Your lottery tickets are your investment portfolio. Optimistic, loosely math adjacent, unlikely to end well. Jordan is also 38. She said no to the last two promotions. Her manager at the time looked at her like she had declined a winning lottery ticket. Her parents asked if everything was okay. Everything was fine. Jordan earns $95,000 fully remote, and she is making pasta at 6:15 p.m., like a person who controls her own schedule. Her 401k has $208,000 in it because she has been maxing it for 7 years, the years when Blake was getting promoted and spending the raise before it arrived. She has $38,000 in a taxable brokerage account. She started a small consulting practice on the side 2 years ago, charging for the expertise her day job pays her to give away for free, and it now generates $2,200 a month that she mostly invests. She took a trip to Japan last year. She reads books that aren't about management. She genuinely cannot locate the specific things she is supposed to be stressed about. Blake makes $47,000 more per year. He has $117,000 less in investable assets. He works 15 more hours every week, none of which are compensated. And those numbers will only get further apart as compound interest does what it always does: reward the person who started earlier and kept going, not the person with the better title. Here is something nobody in your company has any incentive to tell you, so I will. The promotion system was not designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to make the company productive. And it has been engineered over decades to make those two things feel like the same thing, while they quietly aren't. There is a concept in labor economics called tournament theory. It describes your workplace as an elimination tournament. Think American Idol, but for office workers and with much worse prizes. The VP role, the director title, the corner office, these aren't just compensation. They are the carrot that extracts maximum effort from every single participant, including the 94 to 96% who will never reach them. Most of the players fund the prize pool with their evenings and weekends and never win anything. Only 4 to 6% of employees get promoted in a given year. In Q1 of 2024, tracking 68 million white-collar workers, ADP found just 1.3% were promoted, the lowest first quarter rate in 5 years. The game has gotten harder to win, right as companies have gotten better at making you want to play. And it is getting more brazen. In 2023, 37% of U.S. employers gave out what the industry politely calls dry promotions, a new title with no pay increase. Congratulations on your promotion to Senior Associate Director of Responsibilities you had last quarter. We will discuss the raise at your next review. The percentage of companies doing this jumped from 8% in 2018 to 13% in 2024. The part that should genuinely bother you: a Cornell survey found that 63% of employees would prefer a promotion without a raise over a raise without a promotion. 63% would take the title over the money. Companies read that data and they act on it. They have discovered that they can pay you in status symbols, and you will thank them for it. Since 1979, worker productivity has grown 3.5 times faster than typical worker pay. Someone is capturing the value being created. It is not the person who just got a new email signature. Here's where it gets quietly dangerous in a way that goes beyond the salary math. When you spend years building your identity around a job title, you stop being a person who has a job and become a job that has a person. The distinction sounds philosophical until the day your company announces a restructuring, and it stops being philosophical immediately. Researchers at the University of Michigan found that job loss functions psychologically closer to the loss of a close relationship than the loss of a paycheck, because people who climbed hard didn't just lose income, they lost the answer to "who am I?" Stanford economists found that workers laid off during a recession experienced roughly a 20% decline in the net present value of their lifetime earnings. That does not fully recover even 10 to 20 years later. The financial scarring is permanent. The identity scarring tends to be worse. Here is why this matters right now. Middle management positions accounted for 31% of all layoffs in 2023, up from 20% in 2018. Google cut thousands of managers. Amazon publicly announced plans to increase the individual contributor to manager ratio by at least 15%. The people being laid off weren't the underperformers, they were the climbers. The ones who built a life requiring $142,000 just to stay above water, who have been out of the technical weeds for 6 years, who have $91,000 in retirement savings at 38. When the individual contributor gets laid off, she has sharp skills, a side income, lean finances, and options. When the VP gets laid off, he has a mortgage that requires his old salary, a resume that lists titles instead of capabilities, and a very complicated Tuesday coming. Great Place to Work analyzed 1.7 million employee surveys and found that golden handcuffs was the single most common phrase burned out employees used to describe what kept them at their job. Not what they loved, what they couldn't afford to leave. The system isn't just extracting their labor, it has made them financially unable to say no to extracting it. That is not a career. That is a very comfortable trap with good dental. Now let's talk about what the research actually says about income and happiness, because this is where the math lands somewhere most people genuinely don't expect. A landmark collaboration between Nobel Prize-winning researcher Daniel Kahneman and Matthew Killingsworth, two scientists who publicly disagreed on this question and then ran a joint study to settle it, found something more nuanced than either expected. For most people, happiness rises with income, but with serious diminishing returns past $100,000. The jumps get smaller fast. For the unhappiest 15 to 20% of people, those dealing with depression, grief, clinical anxiety, well-being plateaus around $100,000 and doesn't move no matter how much more they earn. Money cannot fix those things. It can make them more comfortable. It cannot make them better. Meanwhile, an Empower survey found that Americans believe they need $284,167 per year to be happy. Millennials estimated $525,947. The research says the real threshold is somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 for most people. We are overestimating the income we need to feel okay by a factor of 2 to 5, and then destroying our weekends chasing the difference. Here is the finding that actually broke my brain. Vanguard studied 12,443 investors and found that having just $2,000 in emergency savings improved financial well-being by 21%. Having $500,000 in income improved it by only 12%. Having over $1 million in assets improved it by 18%. The single strongest predictor of feeling financially okay was not your salary. It was a $2,000 emergency fund, security. The feeling that one bad week won't destroy you beats income every single time. And the person with the lower title and the leaner, better built finances, she has that. The person who chased the promotions and spent every raise before it arrived, he doesn't. So, what does it actually look like to say no on purpose? More people are doing it than you think. A Vizier survey of 1,000 full-time employees found that 62% of individual contributors actively prefer staying where they are rather than moving into management. Their top priorities, 67% said time with family, 64% said physical and mental health, 58% said traveling, barely 4% said reaching the C-suite. The people living inside the promotion tournament are looking at the prize and quietly declining. And here is the career finding that reframes the whole ladder metaphor. A study published in Management Science found that workers who move laterally, sideways across functions or companies, rather than straight up experience higher subsequent wage growth and are more likely to reach senior leadership eventually than people who climbed vertically in a single track. The person who said no to the manager role took a lateral move into a different function and built broad expertise across the company, does not fall behind. They end up a decade later better positioned and better paid than the person who accepted every rung. Now, not every promotion is a trap. If it comes with real equity at a company where that equity might actually be worth something, take it. Equity can represent 33% or more of total compensation and dwarf any salary differential. If it genuinely takes you from financial stress to financial stability, take it. But if it means 12 extra unpaid hours per week, if it is a dry promotion, 37% of them now are, if it kills the time you would use to build something of your own, then the math is talking to you clearly in plain language, and the math doesn't care what the title looks like on LinkedIn. Nobody in that building has any incentive to show you these numbers. The company makes money when you say yes, it makes more money when your salary makes you unable to leave, so they don't show you the math, they show you the title. Remember that person I asked you to picture at the start of this video? The most ambitious person you know, the one who said yes to everything and is home at 7:45 p.m. eating standing over the sink, wondering where the day went. Here's what the math says their alternative looks like. The first time you say no to a promotion, it feels like you are falling behind. Your colleagues look at you sideways. Your parents ask careful questions. The ambitious person you have always been sends you low-grade panic signals for about 6 weeks. Your brain, trained since childhood to read title as success, does not enjoy this. And then something shifts. The hours you are not spending in management meetings start turning into something. The retirement account you are actually funding starts compounding. The side income you built in the margin starts generating real money. Sunday nights stop arriving with that tightness in the chest. And 5 years later, not 10, not 25, you look at the person who said yes to everything and you see it clearly. Their salary is bigger on paper. Their life is considerably smaller in practice. The person who never stopped chasing the next title will spend the next decade running towards something that keeps moving just out of reach. You will have spent that decade building something that actually belongs to you, that no reorg can eliminate, no skip level can restructure away, no company can decide doesn't fit the new strategy. Not your title, not your salary, your leverage, your options, your actual, practical, run the real math financial freedom. Go home at 5, invest the difference, and let compounding do what your company never will, work on your behalf. If this math changed how you think about the climb, hit subscribe and drop a comment. Have you ever turned down a promotion? I want to know what happened. I am Hamster. See you in the next one.